Good evening, children. Today we are going to discuss Standard 8's GIB lesson. It is in Unit 2. It is about a bird which belongs to an endangered species. It is called Great Indian Bustard. Okay, so it is more of an ostrich family. It looks like an ostrich, though the scientists have found out that it is, by nature, it is more like a cuckoo. So this lesson deals with uh, the kind of bird it is, and its physical constitution, and its food habits, and its lifespan, and why is it called an endangered. Why is it endangered, and what does it mean to be endangered? So this lesson is presented in a unique way, like it's in a form of an interview. There's a student named Anup, who's interviewing Miss Paul. Miss Paul is a researcher, a wildlife researcher, who's researching on this particular species, and she's trying to enumerate the kind of difficulties that Great Indian bustards are facing nowadays, and how it is going to be extinct shortly if necessary steps are not taken. If you remember, I had asked you to go through the lesson. The language is very simple. It's just a factual lesson, so you just have to remember the facts about the bird. So we will straight away go into discussing the question answers, because there is nothing to discuss as per the language of this lesson. So if we see the first questions that requires 80 words to answer. The first one is, who is Miss Paul? From the lesson, we've come to know that Miss Paul is a researcher. She's a wildlife researcher who is researching on the Great Indian Bustard, or GIB, and she's trying to find out the ways in researcher she's trying to understand the issues that are affecting the Great Indian bustards. What are the issues affecting it? Why is it endangered? What is the problem in its existence? So those are the things she's trying to address. So in your answer, you have to mention that she's a wildlife researcher and she's trying to address the issues. She's trying to find out the issues that are affecting the Great Indian bustard. And she's being interviewed by Anup. Where does GIB live? This you can find in the very first part of the chapter. It lives in open landscapes. In the very first paragraph, you can see, which have sparse grasses and shrubs. Sparse means very less. It's more or less arid areas. Okay, you can also find it in the third paragraph by Miss Paul. She says that GIBs live in arid regions. Arid means dry regions. That's why it can do with very little water. It can survive on very little water. Okay, and let's go over to the next question. So these are merely 20-word questions. So you have to write 20 words precisely. Maybe 1 or 2 words more won't harm, but don't make it less than 20 words. How can we say that the GIB is not the heaviest bird? GIB, as per the information given in the lesson, weighs 15 kgs max. But there is another species. It is the heaviest bird in India. GIB is, but there is another species in Africa, as we see from the lesson, which weighs about 18 kgs. It's found in Africa. It is called Kori bustard. You can see that Kori bustard. It weighs about 18 kgs. So GIB is not the heaviest bird in the world, but certainly it's heaviest in India. Okay, now question number 4. How do high tension electric wires affect the GIB? Now we know from the lesson that the GIBs mostly live on the ground. They walk about the ground. So if there are any high tension electric wires planted in the place where it resides, it it can simply dash against it and get electrocuted. Electrocuted means getting a high voltage electric shock, which leads to their death. So civilization is playing a huge role in growing civilization is playing a huge role in making these birds extinct. Okay, so that wraps up our questions of section A. Now moving over to section B. Here you have to write 30 to 40 words. Explain the food habits of GIB. It is clearly stated in the first page. So you see, the bird's diet varies according to the season. So it eats different things in different season. That's adaptation, you can say. The bird feeds on grass seeds, agricultural crops such as groundnuts, millets, as well as insects such as grasshopper, beetles. It also eats rodents and lizards. We may term it an omnivore. So omnivore, I need not explain to you. Its diet includes both vegetarian as well as non-vegetarian food. Okay, so please try to include as much as information as you can in your answer, but don't make it a big answer. Keep it within 40 words. Why should the mother GIB be careful? Now we have seen in the lesson the information that is passed on by Miss Paul to Anup, that GIBs mostly they don't live on the trees. Thus they're very heavy birds. They mostly roam about in the ground in search of food, and they build their nests on the ground. They just find a isolated spot and they lay their eggs in that spot, and they have to be the mother. Entire incubation process is done by the female GIBs, and the mother has to be very careful of the eggs since they're on the ground, because there are dogs which roam all over the land, and they can eat up their eggs. So they have to save their eggs from the predators like dogs. And moreover, the egg takes a long time to incubate. As you can see, it takes about 25 days. So see, for the eggs to hatch, so the eggs are exposed to a lot of danger from predators, and hence the mother has to be alert during this incubation period, and also when the small chicks hatch out. So the mother has to be alert to protect the chicks and the eggs. Right. Question number B3. How many of these birds are still left, and where can they be found? It's a clear statistical data. We have read that there are about 150 of these birds that are left, as this paragraph informs us, in India. Most of them are in Rajasthan and Gujarat, and there are few birds still in Maharashtra, Andhra Pradesh, Karnataka, and Madhya Pradesh, but they have completely disappeared from Punjab. This line we need not include, so we can write up to this where they are available in India. Okay, so that takes care of where they can be found. So 150 of these rare species can be found in India, and they can be found in the places that are mentioned in that paragraph. Okay, so our last bit, question number C. Here you have, these are paragraph type answers. You have to make it big, about 100 words. Why does Miss Paul fear that GIB may meet the same fate as dodo? So this you have to research a bit. Since GIBs are endangered, are critically endangered, they're put in the category of critically endangered species, and there are only 150 of these birds that are left in all over India, to be found in parts like Rajasthan, Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Karnataka, etc. And since they live on the land, they run the risk of this predation from dogs and other animals which roam on the ground. Also, the expansion of agricultural land due to growth, population explosion. Moreover, what are the other causes? And the human settlements. So more and more lands are taken under human settlements, and hence there is no space left for the wildlife to thrive. Hence, GIBs are pretty endangered. So the researcher, Miss Paul, uh, correctly guesses that GIBs may soon be extinct since they're reducing in such an alarming rate. So soon they would be like the bird dodo, which became extinct a long time ago. We only see pictures of that bird. However, we have never seen an actual one. Well, dodos are very famous since they are known for their stupidity. So there is a phrase which goes as stupid as a dodo. Oh well, that's besides the point. So those are the reasons because of which the researcher thinks that soon GIB may be extinct. So please give the reasons clearly. First, there is poaching going on, then expansion of agricultural land, and increase in mechanized farming, and also expansion of human settlement. So more and more forest land is going inside human settlement. So people are encroaching into forest lands to build their houses. Okay, so and number 2 of section C, protecting any species require joint efforts by research institutes, scientific organization, government departments, and NGOs. Explain. This is clearly mentioned in the paragraph over here in the last page. Okay, so you have to enumerate the roles of research institutes, scientific organizations, government departments, and NGOs. What roles they have to play in protection of a species, and how their joint efforts can save a species from extinction. This is clearly discussed over here. Now, question number 3. Ms. Paul tells Anup, the future and safety of wildlife and environment lies in the hands of young people like you. How do you think young people can help to protect wildlife? A little bit of it is mentioned in the chapter, like young people can create awareness so that the awareness can be spread among the young generation, and they can organize various awareness programs to spread it further. And one spark of knowledge somewhere can help the fire to grow grow in a very great speed among the entire civilization. It doesn't take time. So only that it requires a little bit of effort from the young generation to take the initiative and spread awareness among everyone. So you can name some campaigns that have been taken up, like Swachh Bharat, that was taken up by our Honorable Prime Minister a few years back, and that had a great impact on the entire society. Now, when we visit the rural parts of India, we can see a lot of development work has been done towards Swachhata, that is cleanliness. Hence, a little bit of awareness at the ground level has spread up and affected the masses. Hence, awareness in small, in form of small sparks can end up creating a huge movement for the betterment. Since we have discussed the same thing in chapter 1, you remember, that the grandfather was trying to imbibe the values of, the goodness of saving water in the little child Ninu, and he expected that he in turn would spread it among his classmates. So it is the same ideology that has been carried out here. So it's a essay type answer. You have to write it carefully with proper points and include some instances from your experience, like I said about Swachh Bharat. Okay, so that's all about it, about this lesson. So I would expect to see your answers very soon. Please try hard and give your best. Thank you.